Hey there, everybody. This is Gary from Constricted and Addicted. Today I'm hanging out with Coconut because he's the only snake I have that either hasn't eaten or that is not in shed. And today I wanted to talk about, basically I had somebody message me the other day on my Instagram page and had said that they noticed that all of my boas are very, very docile. And what do I do as far as handling to keep them so docile? And I thought, that was a great topic for me to talk about because I do have very docile boa constrictors. I don't think I have one in my collection that I'm afraid to handle, that I can't just pick up and handle. I've got a couple of them that I do use a hook with. They're babies, and obviously when I go into their enclosures, they are a little more uncertain as compared to, say, Coconut. When I go into his enclosure, he knows without a doubt that I'm not going to hurt him. I'm going to pick him up. He's going to get held. And, it's not feeding time. So what do I do? And I think for me, what it really boils down to is when I get a boa constrictor from somebody, or I get a python, for instance, I get them acclimated to being handled immediately. And sometimes that means that snake is going to get handled a little more often than the rest of the snakes. Like, for instance, I'll give my reticulated python right now a very good example, is that obviously she's a little older. She's not a baby, but she's almost 2 years old. Actually, I say she's almost 2 years old. She's 18 months old. Her birth date was May 23rd, 2020, right? So, but she's not used to being handled. And I think this can apply to any snake that you have in your collection that is not used to being handled. Here I ended up with a reticulated python, and I'm not really used to handling snakes that are flighty, that are bitey, that are defensive, that are scared. Most of my boa constrictors, or most boa constrictors that I get, are much like Coconut, that they've had some handling experience. The worst part about it is maybe the flight from wherever they come from to when they get to my place here. That could be the worst part of it. And then there's this period where the snake is scared, and I've got to show it, hey, I'm not going to hurt you. You're in a good home. I'm going to handle you to show you that you're going to be okay. So when I get a new snake, it's the same thing. For instance, with the reticulated python, when I did that unboxing video, that snake went flying out of my hands. And my first thought was, oh my God, don't let it hit the floor, because I was afraid that if it hit the floor, it was going to get under the refrigerator, it was going to go into the oven, and then it's lost. And then what do I do? So what I wanted to do is make sure that it was instinct, right? Like, I have seen a lot of videos from people who talk about defensive snakes and how to kind of break the strike zone, right? So when you've got a flighty snake and they've got this area where they want to strike you, you keep going at their neck like this to keep that strike zone out. So that was the thing that like instantly came to mind as that snake was trying to fly out of my hands. Now, again, so I've got the snake that is very flighty, very defensive, not aggressive. I was going to use the word aggressive, but that's not the word at all. Defensive, scared. It's just as scared as me as I am of it, right? So I gave it as much attention every day. I worked with it for 15 minutes. And that's what I do with a brand new boa constrictor. And what I'll do is I'll get them out, I'll sit with them, and I'll just let them sit in my hands. And if that's all they want to do is just sit in my hand, then that's what they get to do. But in that 15 minutes, they're going to know that I didn't try to hurt them, I didn't try to eat them, and they don't have to be scared of me. So that's what I'll continue to do as I continue to work with that snake, whatever it is, whether it be a boa constrictor, whether it be a python, whatever it is. And my experience so far is that by doing that, I have to go through some uncomfortableness, such as the snake trying to get away, such as the snake trying to bite, such as the snake just not being comfortable. And with a larger snake, and again, I'm going to reference the super dwarf retic. The super dwarf retic is almost 6 feet long at less than 2 years old. So it's got a lot of body to try to control if it gets out of control and wants to get away, if it wants to be defensive. So you've got to know how to be able to be prepared for something that when that snake decides it wants to go, that you're going to try to keep it in control. And that's why I was using gloves and I was using a heavy jacket to try to protect myself should that snake want to decide to turn around and try to get me. So that's with a larger snake. But when you've got a baby boa that just like, for me, for instance, I've had 2 boa constrictors that when they got to my residence after being shipped from Florida, they were not happy. As a matter of fact, my wife did an unboxing video for the Argentine that I purchased. It was quite funny because I told her when she went to FedEx to pick the snake up, the first thing that she needed to do was to make sure the snake was alive. And she knows to do this. She wants to make sure because she knows that, you get a snake on a plane, it travels for, 3,000 miles and then goes to a FedEx facility. It's probably been tossed around. You don't know what happens, right? Once it leaves the breeder's facility. So we want to make sure that when we get it, when we pick it up, that it's live. So the first thing she does is she goes to FedEx, she picks up the package, and she can hear the Argentine hissing in the box, right? She gets in the car and she calls me immediately. She says, your snake is alive. It is hissing through the box. And we kind of got a little laugh out of that. So what she did is she did the whole unboxing video, which was kind of cool, but she actually just put it in the quarantine tub in the bag that it came in and let it come out of the bag on its own so that when I got home from work that day, I got to go check it out. And as soon as I picked it up, I had it in my hands. It started hissing at me, but that's really all it was a lot of hiss. It was scared. So I got to hold it. I got to hold it until it stopped hissing, until it started to go through my hands a little bit, and it started to hiss again. And then I realized, you know what? We're going to let it sit for a couple of days, let it acclimate, and then we're going to try again. And just by doing that, the snake stopped hissing at me. I started to handle it more. Now it's one of the most docile snakes that I have in my collection. But again, I think it's important. We talk about that when you get an animal from, and it flies to you, a lot of animals are established and a lot of animals can handle being handled right out of the box. But there are some animals that are not going to be able to tolerate that. And they need to have that, 1, 2, maybe 3 days of being in their enclosure, being able to find where they can hide, being able to know where their water dish is, knowing that they're going to be stable. They're not going to go flying around or being tossed around in a box, that they're going to be okay so that when I go in there and I grab that snake and I want to handle it, that it's not going to get all freaked out because, oh my God, here we go again. I'm going to get tossed around. Where am I going? Blah, blah, blah. So I like to keep my handling sessions when I have a brand new snake right about 15 minutes. And sometimes you'll learn that the 15 minutes is just long enough to get that bond going. But it's also just enough time for me that I know that it's going to be a positive handling experience. Lots of times I will get a brand new boa constrictor and I'll be handling it and everything's going good. And I say, okay, well, we're going to put you back now. And then once I go to put it back in the bin, it is fighting me to come back out because it's realized that it's not going to get hurt. It's out. It has enrichment. But again, what I want to do is enforce that it's not going to get hurt, that it's going to be okay. In my collection now, I have 14 boa constrictors. 2 of which they were a little older. Coconut being one of them. Coconut was about 3 years old when I got him. He's 6 now. And Max, who I've had now for about 2.5 years, and he's about 6 now as well. And both of these boa constrictors were very well established. Coconut was actually used in kids programs, and I had gotten Coconut for the purpose of introducing my granddaughter to a larger snake. So both of those snakes, they were okay to handle as soon as I got them. They were in quarantine, but obviously I got them out. They were very, very socialized, very good animals to have in my possession, good animals to handle. I was very comfortable with them, and they got longer than the 15-minute sessions that showed, hey, I'm not going to hurt you. You're going to be okay, right? So, but the smaller boas, like every other boa that I have in my collection, has gotten that same kind of treatment where I get them into quarantine, or once they're out of quarantine, I get them into their home, and we do 15 to 20-minute sessions of handling. Just let them cruise from hand to hand or sit in my hand and just be comfortable in my hand if that's what it is, so that they understand that each time that I go and get them out of their enclosure, that they know that they're not going to get hurt, that they're in good hands, that I'm not going to hurt them. That's the big thing. And as a result, what's happened is that all of my boa constrictors are very, very docile. Now, talk about hook training, talk about feeding responses. Most of my snakes don't have a feeding response. I mean, literally, I can open up an enclosure like King Darius here, my Suriname, and I literally put a mouse or a rat in front of him to show him that it's feeding time. He doesn't have a feeding response. He doesn't get really curious when the door opens up. He's been handled so much that he doesn't associate opening the door with being fed. Now, Drestia down here, I'm not going to show you, my Hog Island Boa, just ate. She's very curious. I can open up the door with her right at the glass. She if I'm in the room, if she's doing right now, she's at the glass. She will stay at that glass until I leave. Her being at the glass is more curiosity, because as soon as I open that glass up, she kind of retreats back a little bit. I take her out of her hide. Actually, what I do is I remove the hide and then I take her out. She never has struck at me at all, but she's a very curious animal, and she knows when I come into this room. All of my other snakes are the same way, such as soon as I open up the bin, they're not looking at me like, hey, what's going on? Ronan, my Peruvian, every once in a while, he'll show a feeding response when I take his hide out to get him out. So I will rub him with a hook and say, hey, check it out. I'm here. I'm not going to feed you. And then I can get him out, no problem at all. And that is the story with all of my snakes. The only one that I have an issue with feeding response is the reticulated python, but that's typical of the reticulated python. They are amazing eaters, so they are opportunists. As soon as you open up that drawer, that's the first thing they think. Now, with mine, that doesn't happen. I can open up that drawer and she just lays there until I make a move inside. If I go to get her without rubbing her and letting her know I'm in there, she will turn around and her feeding response will get turned on. So I always use a hook with her, and so far it's been pretty successful as far as getting her out and getting her out by the tail. We are actually now I'm able to handle her without gloves, without the jacket on. I posted a video on my Instagram page on Friday of me holding her with no gloves on, with no, basically barehanded, bare-armed. We have come a long ways. And I believe that's one of the greatest things, whether it's the reticulated python or whether it's a brand new boa constrictor, that once you see that progress in the handling, that you're not getting bit, you don't have this herky-jerky reptile in front of you, that you've got a snake that's got confidence, that you've got confidence, that you both trust that you're not going to hurt each other. I think that is such a wonderful thing. And I have that with every one of my boa constrictors. They get handled. They're not display cases. None of my snakes, if you walk into my house, you wouldn't even know that I have reptiles. This room here is my wife's reading room, but I've got enough real estate in here that I can put 10 snakes in here. And then we've got another 4 snakes, in our bedroom. And then I've got another snake in the grandkids' room. So if you walked into my house and I didn't tell you I had reptiles, you would have absolutely no idea that I have reptiles here. And that's because they're not display animals. They're not showcase animals. They're not animals that are going to give you that wow factor, unless I say, by the way, I've got reptiles. Would you like to see them? Which does happen. I am that guy that most people come over to my house, they already know I've got snakes. And I'm more than happy to break them out and show them to people. But that's not their sole purpose in life. Their purpose in life is to give me enjoyment, and I hope that I give them enjoyment. Now, I can tell that I kind of do, because Coconut's not freaked out. Coconut is a very curious animal when I bring him out, but it doesn't take him long just to settle down, relax, basically chill out, and feel like he's not in danger. And I believe I give that to all of my animals. So I'm very huge on handling your snakes. I've talked about this many times. I'm a hobbyist. I'm not a breeder. I have breeding plans for the future, but that is the future, and I have no idea what the future brings to me. All I can do now is love on the animals that I have, and I also know my limits. So I have another reticulated python that I've purchased, and that is the last snake that I am going to have. I do not want to have so many snakes in my collection that some snakes get neglected. So basically what I do now is I have a schedule, but it's a mental schedule. It's not like a charted schedule, but I come in here, I'll think about who I haven't held, I'll pick them up, and it's kind of neat to the sense where I can pick up a snake that I haven't handled in 3, 4, 5 days, and it's not like they're forgotten about me or they're upset because I haven't handled them, or that they're intolerant to being handled. Most of my animals are very established and very socialized. So if they don't get handled for 3 or 4 days because I'm cycling through all my other animals, I don't lose any progress with that. So that's a really, really cool thing to have with the animals that I have. And I also believe that's because my collection is not so great that some of my animals get lost in the shuffle. So I thought it was a great question to ask. If you ever want to check out my snakes, I have a page on Instagram. It's called Gary's Constrictors. I post pretty much nothing but my snakes on that page. Every once in a while, I'll throw a guitar wheedle up because that's just what I do. And you'll get to see me shred on guitar. But 99.9% of the time, it is with these guys. It's what I'm doing with these guys. It's pictures with these guys. It's how I feel about them. It's everything constrictor related. So that's Gary's Constrictors on Instagram, at Gary's Constrictors. I'll post the link in this video. And again, I just want to thank, I can't remember who it was, but somebody had asked me, they sent me a private message about my snakes and how docile they were. And I thought that was really cool because sometimes I might take that for granted, is that I do spend a lot of time with my snakes. And because I have so many very wonderful temperamented snakes that I forget that you could have one bad snake that could really mess things up, but I don't have that. Every one of my snakes is just very wonderful to handle and to be around. And in most cases, not with all my snakes, but in most cases, I can pretty much hand one of these animals to anybody and allow them to handle them and trust that they're just as good as hands with them as they are with me. So anyways, I appreciate it. I appreciate all the new subscribers, you guys. This is all that matters to me. I love these guys. And thank you guys so much for everything that you do for me, for my animals, and for watching what I do. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. We'll see you.